Panasonic is a member of the L-Mount Alliance, meaning we can work closely with other members of the Alliance to add extra functionality to your native L-Mount third-party lenses. Let's start with a lens from Sigma, the 56 f1.4. This lens does not have built-in stabilization. However, because the S5 that we have it mounted on has in-body stabilization, we can of course use that. Let's take a look at the options that we have. In the menu system, starting from the photo menu or the video menu, because we'll find the same stabilization options in either menu, we'll go up to photo, and then over to the others menu, and then to image stabilizer. In here, you'll have a variety of controls, and these are largely the same controls that we saw in the video on the native L-mount lenses from Panasonic. You'll notice in here that you have the operation mode at the top. That allows you to switch between normal, auto, and off. In the normal mode, the camera is correcting against all 5 axes of stabilization. The next mode, panning auto, means that all 5 axes are active. However, as soon as you start to pan the camera, and this works whether you're holding it horizontally or vertically, the camera recognizes that motion and stops trying to correct for that left to right motion. So it's not trying to fight against your pan. The next option is simply turning it off. I'll put it on auto. The next option is when to activate. Should the stabilization always be active or only when you press the shutter halfway? That's up to you. The next 3 modes are specifically for video, starting with E-stabilization. E-stabilization is an additional layer of stabilization that is specifically for shooting video that happens on the sensor. The sensor is cropped in just a little bit, and then the image moves around on the sensor to add that extra layer of stabilization. It does make for incredibly smooth video, but it does crop into your shot just a little bit. The next option, Boost IS, is essentially a tripod replacement mode. This is an incredible level of stabilization, but it is designed for a locked shot, simulating as if the camera is on a tripod. If you don't have a tripod and you turn this mode on and you hold it, the camera will effectively look like it is on a tripod. But if you try to move it at all, the camera will fight every movement that you make. The last option is anamorphic for video. The anamorphic option is if you're using an anamorphic element added to an existing lens. I'll go ahead and leave that off as well. Next, let's take a look at another lens from Sigma. I have here the 100 to 400 lens. This is a beast. There is a ton of range on this lens, and it's got a lot of great features, including built-in stabilization. You'll notice on this lens that there is a switch down here that allows me to turn the stabilization off or on. There's actually 2 different positions on here that you can choose between. I'm going to go ahead and put it into position 1. This has just enabled stabilization for the entire system. It's worth pointing out that that switch doesn't just disable stabilization for the lens, it actually shuts it off for the entire system. Now let's take a look at the menu options in the camera. You'll notice as I go to the image stabilization menu that the operation mode is no longer available. That's actually because that switch on the side of the lens, on this particular lens, controls that. Let me show you what I mean. I'll exit out of the menu mode and take a look in the top right corner here. You'll see it says body and it has the symbol of the hand with the stabilization symbol next to it. This indicates that it's in the standard stabilization mode. If I switch the switch on the lens, you'll notice now that it says body with the hand and the word auto next to it. This indicates that I'm in the auto mode where the stabilization will automatically disable for horizontal panning if I start panning the camera. Back into the stabilization menu, you'll see that the first available option is body or lens stabilization. I can choose between using just the body or using a combination of the lens and the body. When you're in body only, you're using all 5 axes of stabilization. When you're using the lens is controlling the up, down, and left and right stabilization, while the body is taking over for roll. Pitch and yaw are not included in this stabilization. This mode is most likely best when using really long lenses, specifically for still photography. When I'm in this mode, you'll notice that other options are not available. For example, I can't choose when to activate it. It's just set to always. E-stabilization for video is on. However, the Boost IS and the anamorphic options are also off. If I roll this back up to the body only stabilization, then all those options are available. There's one more thing I want to show you in here. Let's jump down to the custom menu. And then under lens others, there's 3 additional options here. Lens focus resume on and off, lens FN button settings, that's the ability to program the function button on some lenses, and focus ring control. These 3 options may or may not be supported by your lens. It just depends on the manufacturer. And that's what you need to know to work with third-party native L-mount lenses on your LUMIX camera.
Panasonic.